Okay, we're live. I've had the biggest mare. So I purposely went live so I could tell this story because I feel like it'd be quite entertaining. So my phone's about to die, right? And I need it for like run sheets and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna quickly go downstairs and get a charger. So I'm like, okay, I know there's a portable charger downstairs that's like almost always on charge. Went downstairs, not there. Mum was taking it to work. Okay, that's fine. I'll just go upstairs and get my charger from my room. Go upstairs, go get my charger from my room. Turns out and then I remembered, I was like, oh, I took it accidentally from my mum's to my dad's when I don't normally take the charger. So I was just sitting on the floor at my dad's, but not here, and my phone's going to die, and I'm out of breath. Hello, Nathan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Big week again. A lot of road trips, which is fun for some people, but when you got a car like mine, it can be a bit tiresome. But yeah, big week.
Big week. Any details you want to share? Any draft news?
Oh, look, well, it was a wild card weekend, so
right.
Usually there's some upsets. Not this week though. Pretty stock standard results. Some good performances across the board. Caleb Wins is one that I have loved watching quite a bit recently, and he's been mentioned on the podcast a lot of the time. But he should go top 20, I reckon. He's just around the mark, but he's be very valuable to any team that picks him up if you want to look up a name.
Lovely. There you go. So draft insight. You don't get this on any other channel. Apart from that whole mare of what just happened, my week's been good. No footy to be stressed about, but it's been a full on day. I think is one word to describe it. But so obviously 5:30 start. We'll adjust. So 5:30 start. A lot of changes in the back end of stuff, but 5:30 start. The AFLW show will be on at 6:30, and you'll see my mug doing double bubble. I'm expecting the double the pay for the invoice, Terry. If you're watching, I'll be doing the W show as well, which was good. Went down, watched the girls on Saturday after open training, which was very good. So it'd be good to speak about that. But we're not here to speak about the girls now. That's on in an hour's time. We're here to speak about everything else. And are we gonna have a stat possibly after Friday night? Yeah, we will. Don't worry, we will. I never let anyone down. Come on. But yes, we're here speaking about it's the September sniff, as journalist Nick Butler has coined it. The smell of finals is in the air. It starts tomorrow night. But before we kick into the actual games, what's your overall feeling? First final series involving our boys in a decade. What are the nerves holding up? Are you looking forward to other games? You said that you're going to all 3 Melbourne games, which will be very, very exciting. I'm a bit jealous of that, actually. But
I don't know. I'm not sure how the feeling is. I said to you pre-show, been a lot of other things to keep me distracted earlier, during the week. So I think that's definitely helped. And I feel like I'm looking forward to tomorrow night, and that will happen. That'll take place. And then it will move to Friday, and I feel like I don't think it will hit till Friday. It's very odd. We're just used to not, like, we don't know any different in a way. So It's just like, oh yeah, cool. Melbourne Collingwood play, cool. We'll watch that. And it's the whole thing of like, well, we've never played the Swans at the G in however many years, 40 odd years. It's like it's just a different game. It's like its own game in itself, and I don't know. I don't want to read about it. Like, it's like we've made finals. Let's just get to the game. What happens. You just can't look too far ahead. Just got to turn up. Probably be on edge the whole time, but looking forward to it nonetheless.
I don't know if that's sorry. I don't know if that's being picked up on the mic. My printer's just gone.
Yeah, it's having a.
It stopped now. I don't know. Oh no, it hasn't. I want to try switch that off, but sorry. Continue, because it's going to annoy me and it's annoying everyone. So just stall for while I.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Well, it is unusual feeling for a lot of clubs, I'd assume, and especially you look at St Kilda, who haven't had one in Melbourne for 12 years. So,
good.
Bit of feeling. It's just a different final series because I think we're so used to. I feel like it's been very similar teams in the last 4 to 5 years, whereas now we've got a bit of a switch up. GWS have been around the mix, but I don't know. I feel like until like post-COVID, it's felt very similar most years. Not a
Yeah,
lot of differences. So some unique games. Yeah, there's some unique games. Apart
yeah,
from your top four, I think the two elimination finals would be very fun to watch.
yeah. I feel like it's going to be really it's going to be interesting. Obviously, first time in 10 years for us. There's a lot of different storylines, which I'm sure we'll touch on when it comes to each of the games. But yeah, the tomorrow night's going to be big. The lineups, Collingwood and Melbourne's would come out, either have come out now or will come out within the hour. So they will, and then I think every others will be Thursday as per regularly scheduled programming for Friday and Saturday games. But yeah, John Noble confirmed dropped, which I'm sure we'll speak on a little bit more when we get to that. When we touch on that game. But yeah, the finals, kind of the feelings in the air. Everyone's excited, on edge, nervous. Yeah. Quickly, what are your thoughts on the break? There's a comment here from Scott that he's not a fan of the break. I feel like if you have to have a break, you'd rather have it here than before the grand final. I feel like that's not as controversial, but yeah, it breaks up the momentum. But then again, it does let the feeling brew, and it creates for a more lively atmosphere. I think, because everyone's been waiting for it. Like, was it distance makes the heart grow fonder? So the further it is away, the more you want it, and then when it comes, everyone loves it a little bit more.
I'm very 50-50 because the only real reason I could see for a 14-day break between prelim and grand final is the concussion reason.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I hated it when they did it 2 years ago for the Dogs Demons grand final.
Yeah.
I was just not a fan. It was just too long. And I don't think you can maintain that same sort of energy for 14 days, whereas you've got a 6-day turnaround and all of a sudden it's just, you're straight into it and it's just movement. It keeps flowing. Pre-finals it feels long, but I feel like it's a okay break though. It's sort of, you're acknowledging that you've just done 24 intense weeks to make it all happen.
And
take a break.
And then
this is different. This is new season.
Bigger
stakes, etc.
It's the cab ride after prees. That's what it is. You don't go from pre straight out. Like, you don't snap your fingers and you're there. You need to have a little bit of a break in the cab, in the Uber, on the way. That's what that is. This is what this week is. I feel just that break, and then you launch into the main course of the season. But yeah, let's just crack on and let's go. Let's start going game by game. Obviously, we are on a little bit of a timeline with the AFLW show and starting in an hour. So let's just start. We'll start in chronological order, naturally. Thursday night, Collingwood Melbourne, first qualifying final, first versus fourth. A lot to make about this game. A lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions, a lot of interesting storylines. Of course, I reckon the teams will come out. I don't think they have been released. I'll quickly double check that, but we do know that.
No, I don't think so.
No, yes, we do. We do know that. Of course, John Noble has been dropped, which, considering he's played every single game for Collingwood this year, is actually quite surprising. But yeah, what do you make of this game briefly before we move on into a little bit more detail? The first final you're going to go to. Yeah, it's going to be really, really intense, especially considering the games that these two clubs have played over the last 2 years. It's going to make for a mouth-watering contest.
I'm not sure which way to go on this because I think the general consensus is Melbourne. Like, Melbourne will just get up. That it'll happen.
Collingwood would have been the better team throughout the year, right?
Yeah. Like, you'd think when you just look man for man on that ground, you'd probably lean towards Melbourne, but then you got to take into account, well, it's going to be 75,000 Collingwood fans, and that's the reality. There will not be that many Melbourne fans in comparison. That is, like, I know it's not home ground advantage in terms of the ground, but crowd-wise, like, I just think they'll be very hard to beat, especially if they get the jump on Melbourne. I think it's done very quickly this game.
Yeah, and I think Peter Beck makes a very good point as we speak on the actual permutation of the game. The weather.
Yeah.
The weather has been the talking point on the lips of a lot of fans, probably more in particular the two Thursday, Friday night games. I think Saturday is looking to be relatively clear. For when you're looking at it from a Carlton perspective, I know we're going to speak on that a little bit more, but the weather, I think, as a whole, is a little bit of a talking point somehow. For our game, it should be okay from all reports. It's going to rain early on in the morning and then it's going to clear relatively late. So that's good news for Carlton supporters and Sydney supporters, depending on where you fall. I don't think it's going to be the same tomorrow night. I think tomorrow night we're going to see some rainfall, especially early on. There's a 89% chance of rain at 7 and an 83% chance of rain at 8, 48 at 9. So by the looks of things, the start of the game in particular will be played under showers, and then the back end of the game once will probably clear up, but the weather will still play a part. Peter V does say that if Melbourne win, but if it rains, a lot could go Collingwood's way. Scott disagrees in that. What are your thoughts on it? If it was to rain, who's a favour? My mind goes to Collingwood.
Yeah, I would a little. It does stop their transition type play. I mean, it just comes down to the whole core of who's going to handle the ball better in the middle and the stoppages. Yeah. So, because it's like weird. Usually when we talk about rain, it's like who's the smaller team, who uses it well.
Who's the worst
it's like
team,
it's finals at the same time.
Yeah. It's
like that. I feel like the rain, it just doesn't matter. It's simply who wants it more, and it's so cliche, right? But like. When you like look at Melbourne, you think Petrarca, Viney, Brayshaw in the middle. It's like, well, they're going to be as clean as what Collingwood are with your Pendlebury's, Josh Dacos. It's like, is Rain going to lean towards one team or the other? I highly doubt it. I just think it's finals football. If you want it more, you'll win no matter what circumstance. So yes, Collingwood seems like the way in the rain, but. If you're Melbourne, you're not thinking, oh, we're in a bit of trouble here with the rain.
Yeah, I mean, Owen with the Melbourne supporter logo or kind of badge, I assume you're a Melbourne supporter, so you know a lot more. You know a lot more about your own club than we would. He says that neither team play the wet well. I would agree, and then obviously Manny comes in. Most of Melbourne's losses have come in the rain. I do agree that I don't think either club play it well. I don't think it suits either team. I'm just thinking about it from a perspective of how both sides are going to approach it. Collingwood are a team that embrace the imperfections a little bit more, and when it's wet, it's an imperfect game naturally. I think the manic pressure, the numbers at the contest, and just the surge footy that Collingwood play, probably less so this season than what it was in the back end of last season, and probably the start of this season as well. Probably just leans me to think that Collingwood would play it a little bit better. But then again, when you've got inside bulls like Petrarca, Viney, Brayshaw, Oliver, and obviously when it's wet, it becomes a far more contested game, and Melbourne have arguably one of the better pure contested midfields in the comp. So it's going to make for an interesting kind of juxtaposition of who can play it well. The rain will 100% play a factor. It's going to make it a scrappy game. It's going to make it a game. It's going to make it a game of moments. And I mean, both sides have a Norm Smith medalist on their team, obviously with Scott Pendlebury and Christian Petrarca. If you want a man to stand up in finals and make a moment their own, you look over at Melbourne and you think Christian Petrarca is your man, right? Because he had a relatively underwhelming final series last year. Obviously, Melbourne went out in straight sets. He was battling through that cracked leg, that broken leg, fractured leg, whatever it was, which somehow he played through. He obviously wins at Norm Smith in 21. He's just bound to just playing a little bit more forward. Could we see a 5-6 goal performance from Christian Petrarca tomorrow night, similar to what Dusty was able to do against Brisbane in that prelim when he played almost permanently forward? Because I don't know what the matchup is on Petrarca when he goes forward, to be honest.
I don't know if it will be Petrarca himself. I think one key forward needs to have a night out, and I don't know why you wouldn't be able to with their two key defenders being pretty poor one-on-one, and they just don't defend. They simply, and we've seen that with Collingwood, their defence has just been super poor. They leak points. And I mean, I'm looking at someone like a Bailey Fritsch, who I've loved watching in terms of just someone who can turn it on, but he doesn't even have to be that key forward that takes you contested marks. He just does the right things, gets into the right position. But even if you move Petrarca forward, you're taking the pressure off the likes of Fritsch, Pickett. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot to work with Melbourne's forward line, but then like we said, if you bring the rain into it, does that change the dynamic? But yeah, I feel like if it's not Petrarca, I feel like a Fritsch will have a night out. I just think there's a lot of ways to exploit their back line. Transition's a different thing, but in terms of your entries, surely, and what we've seen with Vision, with Collingwood, and how heavily they've conceded, surely if you're Melbourne, you're licking your lips and thinking, wow, look at our forward line compared to their defenders who typically don't do well against the key forwards. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to play in that sort of forward line structure with Melbourne.
Yeah, Fritsch obviously coming under that injury cloud concern with that ankle/foot against Sydney. Interesting to see whether if he's 100%. He had that Darcy Moore matchup in the Queen's birthday game, or King's birthday game, I should say, this year. And I don't know how many he kicked, but he kicked a couple, and he kicked a couple of big goals as well. Leading up, taking marks, as well as being at the fore of the ball. So yeah, I do agree. He's one of those players for Melbourne. Spoken about two Melbourne players, quickly for Collingwood. Who's going to be the man to take the game by the scruff of the neck? No, Nick Dacos. So you can't say him. It will be interesting to see who pops up. I don't know if Jack Ginnivan will play. If I was Craig McRae, I would play him. Like Manny says here, Collingwood. We don't know what Collingwood are going to do. They dropped Noble. They are up to something. They've dropped him at Noble, and he's played every game this year.
Yep.
My mind, if I was Collingwood, I'd play Jack Ginnivan, and I think he has the potential to just go bunter, because he's one of those players under the lights, in the wet, scrappy game, just thrives, in my opinion. He's a player that could kick a couple, and could kick a couple of important ones if he plays.
Well, him, or I guess the other option would have to be probably there you go.
Yeah,
that's probably your other main option. That in terms of brings a spark, and he did it last year against Geelong. He was great. I mean, even the Freo game, like 2 games, he stood up. And actually, one that I like, but I don't know if he sort of fits this category, but someone like Isaac Quaynor, his sort of big moments can really turn it on for you. Just do those little things that spark your team. So those are probably my 2 players. Yeah.
It's going to be, if you were to give a quick storyline of how the game could go, what are you thinking? Because I feel like it will not go. The margin will not be above 12 points.
Yeah, see, I'm the opposite. I think one team will win this comfortably. I think mindset will play a big thing, especially if the weather is like what it is. I just think if you get a jump, it's game over, like either way. And probably leans more towards Collingwood in terms of getting the jump, because crowd, it'd be highly unexpected for Melbourne to come back. But I just think it will be over possibly by half time. I don't know why. There's so much hype behind this game, and it's like, will it just fade away and just feel like, oh, Melbourne have come out and they've dominated, or Collingwood have come out and they've just dominated. So that's, I don't know. I just can't see it being close.
Interesting. I've got it the other way. I do think I would agree. If a team kicks the first 2, 3, 4, they could ice the game early. But I just think it's going to be scrappy. I just think both teams just play each other so well. I mean, if I can quickly bring up AFL tables, just look at the last couple, because they've played a couple of big games against each other that have ended really close. So
but the thing is, with most of those games, though, one team's been ahead by quite a bit at some point. So
So their last 3 games have ended in a 4-point margin, 7-point margin, and granted a 26-point margin in King's birthday last year, but that was during Collingwood's just ability to run over teams. They kicked 6 goals. Yeah, they kicked 6 goals straight to 1 goal 3 in the last quarter to run away with that game. So it was close for the most part, and Collingwood just did what Collingwood do. But they've played their last 3 games have been thrillers. If you were to give a prediction, put you on the spot.
I think Collingwood will win this. Like, I think all the pressure is on Melbourne purely because what we've heard. I know form wouldn't suggest it, but I don't know. I just think crowd will get them over the line. I think that's enough. Honestly, it will dominate tomorrow. Especially, like I said, they get a run on, game over. I reckon Collingwood will win by like 24. I think this could possibly be like a staple game of like we're not getting beaten. Like this is happening.
Well, I have Collingwood. I have a lot of people around me that are Collingwood supporters, and they've obviously been giving their thoughts. And my cousin has been very not passionate, but has been reminded me a lot about what Craig McRae has said throughout the last couple of weeks, and that is that they're in the business of qualifying. And there's been rumours that they've done a little bit of a mini preseason leading up to the finals, and they haven't really been too worried about the results in the last couple of weeks. They've just been ready to prep for finals because they've had top two locked up, so it didn't really matter. In saying that, the pressure is on Collingwood, top spot, best team all year, as Peter V says. I think whoever wins tomorrow night wins the flag. I said that to you pre-show, and I've said that quite a few places. I think whoever wins tomorrow night wins the flag, and I think Melbourne will win. Just in a thriller, not low scoring. I'm thinking 45 to 55 kind of areas. Really, really low scoring, but I think it will. I think it will be. Yeah, I think it's going to be a Melbourne victory. Let's get a Collingwood Carlton Granny. Let's not, please. Let's not, because my heart won't take that. But yeah, so you've gone Collingwood by 4 goals. I've gone Melbourne by under a kick. Let's say I'll say 4 points just to give a number on it. And I think a good segue from this comment from Jimmy. Whoever wins Friday wins the flag. Let's touch on the game on Friday, shall we? Now, this is the first time that we've done this show that speaking about Carlton is unavoidable. About Carlton is unavoidable. So we have to address them, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Philly? Briefly, because there's enough Carlton content on this Carlton channel. What are your thoughts, feelings, emotions heading into this week?
It's weird to think about because like my thoughts are like, oh well, we lost them last time, but last time we were garbage and they had no AFL listed players on their team. Yeah, so I feel like the last time we played,
Nick Blakey took 7 intercept marks in the last quarter.
Yeah, so it's just a weird one to think about because I think in terms of when you look at finals games and the whole cliche of whoever wants it more will win it, this is that exact game. I think it's pretty even split. When you look at form, you lean towards Carlton, but it's like it's Sydney. They can play finals. They just have to turn up for finals, and that's what they did last year. They just blitzed it at the end of the year and got into a granny. I mean, we'll touch on tips later. I'm struggling to see how this one will go. I've really got no vision in my head of what this will look like. I mean, it has to be close, this one. I think one team could get out, but in comparison to the Melbourne Collingwood game, I think it will end up close no matter what.
Yeah, I am so unbelievably nervous. Like I've not stopped thinking about it all week. The feeling in the stomach has not waned. Major home ground advantage, as Manny puts here. Major home ground advantage, surely can't win. Well, Carlton have not lost at the MCG since the Essendon game. They have played 4 games and won 4. Sydney have 0-3 at the MCG this season, including losses to Richmond, Melbourne, and the Western. No, not the Bulldogs. And Collingwood, sorry. Collingwood, Richmond, and Melbourne. Carlton are 4-0 since they started their run. Obviously, with the Kobe out in terms of lineups, Harry goes to the interchange. Obviously, that's going to be a big talking point. What the forward line looks like with Harry Mackay back. Obviously, Carl went on that run without Harry. He's back. How does that forward line shift? Does Jack Silvani make a fitness test? Does Blake Acres make a fitness test? Do you play Mark Pitney? And then from the Sydney side of things, it's What do you do with Isaac Heaney? Do you play him in the midfield? Because obviously last time out, he got moved into the midfield and dominated and really was able to be the difference for Sydney. What do you do with like how do you position Errol? Do you play him on the wing? Do you move him into the middle, try to get a bit of run there? Like, what do you do with your key forwards? There's a lot of like selection headaches for both teams that I think could be a difference. Peter says Blues by 24. Yeah, I agree. I think rain will cease before Friday evening. Sydney's last quarters have been woeful. I'll take your word on that. Yeah, the rain shouldn't play a factor throughout the game. It will rain heavily in the morning, but by the time the game starts, I think it should be fine. It's going to be loud, as Jimmy puts here. We're a pack of Euros, loud as hell. I still can't even find the right words to describe my feelings. It's just this nervousness.
Yeah. It's just odd, and it just feels like it could go so many different avenues. Like in terms of, it's like the possibility. It's like, oh, if Carlton start well, it's game over. If Sydney start well, what happens? It's like, there's just
can't respond. All that, yeah.
All these different things. In terms of tactically, if you Carlton, you want to restrict corridor access for Sydney, and you want to win your centre clearances, which is the main thing. Which is probably why Sydney. I mean, that's why Sydney struggle at the G as well. I mean, when you look at the SCG, where you're pretty much forced to go through the corridor, you've got that width of the G that they struggle at. So, look, the ground suits Carlton.
Yeah.
But if you can't restrict them through the corridor, just got to do the basics right. That's really it, and that's why Sydney have been falling over in one quarter pretty much across the last couple of weeks, and that's where their downfall is. They just lose their structure, let the teams let the opposition dictate terms, and for a team like Carlton who have proven they can do 7 or 8 goal quarters, that could be enough, and that's what they did last year at Marvel. Kicked 8 goals in that second quarter, and it was Sydney came back, but that was big enough, and that was good enough. So this leans into Carlton, but if you get, I think it's just who does the basics better, because I think both teams can execute the fundamentals really well, and whoever does that the best will, probably get up. But it's very hard to tip.
I hate this so much. I hate it. Like
a Sydney,
sorry. I just want to digress for a very brief moment. When everyone has watched finals in the past, and the rhetoric around Carlton supporters was, I hate watching finals because we're not in it, and imagine how good it's going to be when
we could have beaten them.
We could have beaten them, all that good stuff. I'm the opposite. I like to watch finals with no emotional investment and just enjoy it. Like, Friday is going to kill me. I don't know. Obviously, Scott.
Well, the question I was just going to bring up is Sydney the best 8th place team we've seen in a while? In terms of I feel like they're much better than what their ladder position dictates, because obviously that middle part of the season did, kick them down the ladder quite a lot. But we knew that wasn't their potential. So
they won 6 out of their last 7 games.
And then if Sydney win, can they go further? There's just those questions. It's because you typically think, 8th loses the first week. They win the first week. They'll get done in the semis. But it's you think Melbourne, Sydney in the second round. Well, hold on. They beat them last year.
Yeah.
It's who knows. Personally, it's just an opinion view right now. If we lose, I hope we get belted. I do not want to leave. Because listen. That it's I don't want the whole thing of but those type of questions.
If Corey Durden had kicked it to the top of the goal square instead of lacing out Jeremy Hull, stuff like that.
So
we love you, Corey.
I think minimum 4 goals if we lose. Just okay. It's okay, yeah. You couldn't beat an 8th place team. You just go out gracefully and you just lick your wounds. But
yeah.
Oh, now I'm a bit stressed out. Talking about it is not good.
I know I know he isn't enjoying this. I'm not. I hate it with all my heart. And you say he will regret it, mate. I don't know. I don't know. I genuinely, I just hate. Yeah, I don't know. It's the nerves of the
Yeah,
potential. That's what it is. And it's also
yeah,
because the pressure's on us. We're the favourites. We should win this game. Home ground advantage. Play the G better. Have had a better run. By
yeah,
far the better team when it comes to form and what should happen. Carlton, like the formula is there. If Carlton win the clearance battle, which they should do, they win the game. Um, that's what probably adds to the pressure and adds to the nerves. Is the formula is F Carlton, and Carlton should win because it's pretty blindingly obvious that Carlton win the centre clearances, which they should. They're the best they're the best midfield team in the comp based on stats, especially in the last 12 weeks. Sydney are one of the worst. Bish bash bosh. It's simple, right? Sydney don't play the MCG well. It's a far different ground to the SCG. Can't gonna have a 75,000 strong, yelling their lungs out. No key defensive depth for Sydney. So when you have Charlie Kerner and Harry Mackay, right? But the fact that Sydney are there proves that they're a threat.
yeah.
Like I said before, what's your storyline? What do you think? Like I want try and remove as much bias around this as possible. What is your objective thoughts about this game? Try it like as down the middle as possible.
Okay.
And storylines
Close.
and
So
trends.
I reckon goal for goal until halftime. Not goal for goal, literally, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Just sort of
close.
no one breaks away. One team kicks 5 or 6 in the third, and then Team B comes back in the fourth, but doesn't do enough. That's just the way. I just don't think it will be. And we've seen with Sydney, there's always one quarter whether they or the opposition just get a run on, and it's over. And they'll start like it will still be close, but I don't know. People keep saying like blowouts and that it'll just be comfortable, but like in what world?
I don't think it'll be comfortable for either team.
Sydney will not just like
Sydney won't roll over, and
you know,
I think
yeah,
Carlton have kind of proven to everyone that they have too much pride to roll over.
yeah. So that's why I think it will be close, but just one team will just do enough to be ahead and just have that gap where a comeback will be too hard just purely because of fatigue, etc. So that's the midpoint of opinion.
But I reckon close to 3/4 time, Carlton will I'm assuming will fire up in the last and win the game. Josh, fun factor: we're 18th on turnover game. Assuming that means Carlton. That doesn't really surprise me, considering. But I guess that's another interesting talking point, whether or not Sydney can capitalise. Obviously, Carlton were very, very profligate in possession last week against GWS, or last week, 2 weeks ago, against GWS, and GWS hurt Carlton on the turnover. I think it's similar to Thursday night. It's going to be close. It's going to be really close. And I think I really don't want to jinx anything, but I'm trying to be as objective as possible. I think it's going to be really close because I do rate Sydney. I do like Sydney a lot. It's going to be really close. It's going to be similar, like goal for goal. No team kind of breaks beyond that 11-point margin. And I think there's going to be a 10-minute patch in the third. I think Carlton are going to, I think it's going to be a similar trend. Sydney are going to lose concentration for a moment. Their defensive structure is going to break down, and Carlton are going to kick 4 or 5 goals in 10, 15 minutes and just keep them at that 26 to 35 point margin for the rest of the game and win by that could happen late in the third, it could happen early in the fourth, it could happen late in the fourth. But I think at some stage during the second half, one team is going to break the game open for 15 minutes, I should say. For 15 minutes, and that's it, and then the game will go back to being even. But I think that 15-minute patch will be enough. And I think it's going to go the way of Carlton. So I'm going to go with Carlton by we'll give Sydney a few goals at the end. I'll go Carlton by 16.
Sydney by 14. I'm back to my old ways because
Actually, no,
I
wait,
cannot do
no,
it this. I cannot do it this week.
no, wait. Sydney gonna win. I can't do it. I can't stop. Actually,
Sure.
no,
Well,
but GWS won. So maybe if we swap back, it
yeah.
works.
Well, maybe, but I can't do it. I just can't do it this week. Yeah, this isn't an on paper week. Like that's out the window now.
Yeah. All right, we finished talking about it. Adam Keeley said at halftime that against us that we knew Carlton's strength their stoppages, so we're going to target the turnover game that we're bad at. Do I think coaches will be focusing on that? 100%. John Longmire is a very astute tactical coach, I should say. He will target our weaknesses, and our weaknesses are turnover, and they've got that pace, especially in that front half of the ground. Happily, Hayward, Heaney, Gordon coming off the wings, coming off half forward. So yeah, we need to be very, from a car perspective, car need to be very kind of, I want to say safe, but very disciplined and concentrated when it comes to their boys, especially coming out of day 50. I think their transition game is pretty good as well, but I think we play the G a little bit better. We know the defensive structure of the G a little bit better, so we'll be able to snuff that out. But Carl dominate the clearances, they win the game. It's the formula's right there for them. But let's move on. Yeah. Next game, Saturday, Arvo, St Kilda, GWS. Okay, now we can breathe. Far less emotional investment in this one. This is you touched on this earlier on in the show. This is one of those finals where it's completely new, completely fresh.
Yeah.
No one really thought this was gonna. No one thought this was gonna be a final during the season, even the first half of the season. Yeah, thoughts, feelings, emotions. You're going to this one as well. Yeah, what do you think about this game? Because I'm really umming and ahhing about it. I don't know which way it's going to go.
This game is 2020 St Kilda Bulldogs in the fact that both teams probably know they're not going to win the next week because it's highly unlikely either will go to Brisbane or Adelaide and win. This is build into the next season type win, I feel like. Yep. This will just be everything at it. I just think this could be like full mental this game in terms of
who wants it more.
I think not even that's just like 5 goals one way, 4 goals the other way, like just nuts, like just sort of no end to it. And you think it's over, but it's not over. And I don't know. I'm just not thinking. I think this will just be the free hit final where everyone will just be like, okay, but yeah, I don't know. I think both teams. Not that both teams will be thinking, yeah, we're not going to win the next week, but in reality, we'll either probably go to Brisbane or Adelaide and win. Very unlikely. You highly doubt it. So this is just like, I think this is an important final in terms of, especially St Kilda, in terms of not dropping away next year, just sort of building onto something and not just being like, oh, we made finals when we weren't expected, but we get belted. And it's like, well, what was the point? GWS, I'd say the same thing as well. It's like you don't want to make it this far, have that type of run, and same with Carlton. It's like you don't want to waste this opportunity in a sense. You're going to get in and do something. So, yeah, just think it'll be a bit of madness. But I don't actually, like, in terms of predictions, I've not thought about it. Yeah.
Same, I really haven't thought about it either. I mean, it's interesting that you say that you think the game's going to be mayhem because obviously Ross Lyon is the antithesis of the word mayhem. And obviously Adam Kingsley has shown that the Giants can be a very disciplined, a very methodical team at times throughout the year. I wouldn't say boring, but quite, I wouldn't say boring, but quite regimented and stringent. It's weird. It's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at it from a storyline perspective, it's going to be interesting to see what the Saints do at the G. Obviously, this will only be their second home game at the G all year. Obviously, playing their not centenary, but their anniversary game against Essendon early on in the year, which they won. So I guess that gives Saints fans some hope. It'll be interesting to see how the defensive structure of St Kilda holds up on the bigger ground, similarly with the Giants. Of course, I don't think the Giants. Let's quickly look at the Giants' record at the G this season. From memory,
I think they only played once, and it was a loss to Collingwood.
against Collingwood.
So yeah,
That's what I think. That's what I think as well. Obviously, double check just because. Yeah, so I have only played once, and they lost to Collingwood last year. They played at the MCG 3 times and lost all 3. The last time they won at the MCG was 2021. They beat Melbourne and Collingwood. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. I think we're going to see a scrappy game, and I I think we're just going to see a team just slowly capitalize and just chip away. I think it might be my gut's telling me St Kilda, even though you know how much, and anyone who's been watching the show knows how much I've been on the Giants bandwagon like nothing else,
yeah.
right? But I just think St Kilda, I just think they're just gonna chip away. Like every goal GWS kick, St Kilda will kick 2. St Kilda will kick like 2 in a row, and the Giants kick 1. The St Kilda kick 3, or something along those lines. Um, yeah, it's. I feel like St Kilda would just have that dog in them, and just have that little bit of mongrel to just
Yeah.
keep edging away and just get the job done. It's going to be close. I'm going to go Saints by 15 points.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'm more leaning towards St Kilda, and more for the reason that I think Giants have to fatigue at some point, because this run they've been on has been non-stop, because they haven't had the opportunity to, ease off in the final round or the last 2 rounds, because they've still been playing. And I know they've had the week off, but I just think I don't know how much longer they can sustain that type of form for. I lean a bit more towards St Kilda. As similar to when they played 3 years ago, there was just that sort of thing about them. It's like, well, they could probably beat whoever they need to play, and crowd as well. I mean, I know they don't need it, but like finals,
And also
it's
the
just,
Giants.
they're not as reliant as what the Suns are in terms of crowd and being away.
No, they're not. No, yeah.
It just would be weird as well. It's like a St Kilda final at the MCG. It's just a different thing, but madness this one. I just think it will go every which way, and it will just sort of keep going, and no one will ever know how it's going to end. And interested. Just the whole vibe. Again, it's very weird. St Kilda and GWS at the MCG. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Like, it's just really weird to think about. And the afternoon as well. Like,
Yeah.
that's even weirder to me.
It's going to be a drastic contrast between last year's final
Yeah.
at in the afternoon at the GE, which was one of the best games I've ever seen in Collingwood Geelong, and then this one, which is going to be really funny, I think. Here we go. Comedy from Josh. It's funny to see everyone underestimate GWS. Well, he's very adamant against the Saints are pretenders. Both of us on the show have been very, very much on the Giants bandwagon. I was on the Giants bandwagon earlier than when I was on the Carlton bandwagon, so I think that goes to show, and the proof's in the pudding. If you want to go back and watch, I don't think anyone's underestimating the Giants. I just think the Giants haven't. The Giants haven't. I want to say the Giants haven't proved it, but they have proved it. I just think the Saints, like Peter V puts it here, master tactician versus apprentice tactician. Ross Lyon knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. It's not going to be pretty, and I don't think it's going to be a blowout. The Giants will 100% be in this game for a big portion of it, and will be up to their eyeballs in it, and will put on a damn good showing. I just think St Kilda. I just think they're going to have enough. I don't know. I just think it's going to be. I just think it's going to be their time. I just think it's going to be their time. So, yeah, I've got the Saints 15. Did you give a prediction that I forgot?
No, very similar. I'll say Saints 9.
Saints by 9. There you go. Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting game. If we move on again to the final game of the first week of finals, Port Adelaide versus Brisbane, or Brisbane versus Port Adelaide. This is, I wouldn't say straightforward, but a lot of people think it's straightforward.
I don't know where. Yeah. Yes. Firstly,
Yes.
agree.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'd love to be Port Adelaide because this is. I mean, I think when you look at who's got the most pressure in any game, Brisbane, because Brisbane lose, they've got to go through Collingwood most likely, given Collingwood win their first game, and St Kilda. Well, GWS did beat them at the Gabba a couple of years ago, so you'd probably be a little
Yes.
bit worried if you had to go through the Giants, but. Brisbane, it's so straightforward for Brisbane, and it's like 20. Was it 2020? Like you win your first game, you win your second game. It's just there for you.
Yeah,
It's
and both are at
presented for you.
home. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be pretty excited if I was Port Adelaide. You've got a big chance to just go and ruin it all. But I mean, Brisbane didn't lose a game at home, so are they really going to get beaten by a Port Adelaide team that has gone a little bit out of form as of recent? So I think Brisbane will do it pretty comfortably,
My
but I
my
don't think it'll be
mind
straight away.
agrees. My mind agrees with that.
It just is very hard to see Port Adelaide manufacturing something that goes over there and can beat them.
Yeah.
Different ground, and like Adelaide Oval compared to the Gabba. I mean, you saw what happened to Brisbane when they went there. I mean, it's just so different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to address Josh because Josh hasn't stopped, and normally I wouldn't, but I think it's quite funny. Sense of the only team that don't deserve final in 2023 should be Adelaide. Well, firstly, St Kilda have not dropped out of the top 8 since round 1.
Yeah.
And just go and look at when St Kilda and Adelaide versus each other this year. I think. Wait, did Adelaide win? Adelaide won, didn't they? Adelaide won.
Some
So
dodgy goddamn umpiring as
was it?
typical in Adelaide anyway. So yes.
Yeah,
I remember
Adelaide
that
won.
pretty
So
well,
yeah,
yeah.
go back and look at that. And if you want to look at that result, but then also say that back then when you're saying that GWS are a different team when they lost to Collingwood, so when they lost back in the day. So I guess form form a couple of weeks or form like 10 weeks ago matters sometimes and matters and doesn't matter other times. But just find it quite funny, that's all. Back on track. Would you agree that if any team is going to go straight sets, it's Port?
No, I think it's Collingwood or Melbourne. I think
Really?
Port
Is that because of the opponent in the semi?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
fair.
that plus Port Adelaide, if they get beaten in Adelaide, I say that, and they lost 2 prelims in a row there. But I feel like they had bigger
One was a
stakes. I
different ball.
just don't think they'll lose. A semi is not as big as what a prelim is. I feel like that'll just be turn up and deliver for them. Whereas prelims, like, oh shit, like we actually have to get
You're
everything
right there.
here.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah.
quality based, my mind says Port, but also I do agree with you when it comes to the whole when you look at opponents, Collingwood or Melbourne will have to verse. I wouldn't say a better team because I don't think Sydney are better than St Kilda or GWS, but I think Sydney are far more capable of. Sydney's best is better than St Kilda or GWS's best, which lends me to believe that on their day Sydney can beat anyone, which means that it's far more capable of an upset, if that makes sense. And also Sydney have the credits in the bank with last year's finals performances, etc. But we're getting off topic, as we do. I'm hearing here. I think Port in an upset. There's a comment here. Good luck picking the result between Port and Brisbane. And then obviously Peter Bay comes in with Brisbane by 30, which is probably where I would tend to agree more. If I had to like throw a dart, if I had to throw a dart at a dartboard, I'd aim for Brisbane by 30, right? But then again, Port could just turn up, kind of what Collingwood did against West Coast in 2020, and just win the unwinnable game, and just all of a sudden just become this team that backs against the wall type thing. I just don't see it happening. I just think Brisbane are too strong at the Gabba. I just think the Gabba, it just plays such a big part. They know that ground so well. Yeah, I just think they're going to be too strong at the Gabba. So I would say Brisbane by anywhere. I think Brisbane will win it relatively comfortably. I think they're going to have like a 15-point lead at the first break, a 23-point lead at the second, and that margin is going to float anywhere between 35 and 23 for the whole game. I just think Brisbane are going to keep them at arm's length and just do what they need to do. If I had to put a number on it, I'd say Brisbane by 25.
Yeah, I'd say less. And weirdly, I think back, I'm like, every time Brisbane get beaten at the Gabba, it's in finals. Like that's the one.
Yeah.
That's where they fall apart. Weirdly, so I mean, yeah, I can't say Port with any confidence. Like that's just where I lie. I think they'll be competitive. I'd be surprised if they get smashed. But yeah, I just think the ground has to be big factor in the end. And I'll say Brisbane, 14 points.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a smashing. I think Port have too much for it to be a smashing. Yeah. Port beat Brisbane by 10 goals in round one. They did. And that was very comprehensive. Granted, it was round one and they played that game at the Adelaide Oval, but like that's the only time they didn't play at the Gabba. Second time round, did they?
Yeah.
No, they
only played once.
Yeah, they only played once. So if you're a Brisbane player, they would have to play some kind of play some sort of effect on your psyche going into that game. So, yeah, it's going to be tight. I don't think we're going to see any blowouts in this first week. I don't think we're going to see any blowouts in this first week.
I reckon there will be. There just has to be. Can you remember a final series?
Yeah, logic dictates that there has to be. Yeah, but if any game is going to end by 50 points or more,
this one probably.
Yeah.
Or actually no, or the St Kilda game. I think that could just.
I don't think. Yeah. Oh, I probably wouldn't agree as much with that one, but I think if any game is going to end by 50 points, I can. There's a realistic chance that Brisbane come out and just destroy.
Yeah,
just one of those things. But yeah, that's it for the finals preview game. So I've got Melbourne, Carlton through gritted teeth, St Kilda, Brisbane. You've got
the same, but Sydney. Oh no, I said Collingwood, didn't I?
I said Collingwood. Yeah. Collingwood, Sydney.
Different.
There
you go.
Yeah. Anyways. Oh god. Okay. Quickly before we wrap up, finals MVP. Just briefly, what are some players that are going to explode in this final series? Whose final series is it? Whose final series is it? Take it by the scruff of the neck. Obviously, the AFL show starts very soon, so we'll keep this brief. The obvious ones are like your Charlie Curnows, your these type of players. But anyone a little bit left field maybe that you could think of?
Not left field. Bailey Fritsch is my always. I
like Bailey Fritsch. Yeah. I like
always go to him. Just reliable. Shouldn't be as dangerous as what he is when you look at him. You're like, there's no way he's kicking 4 on you. But he does. And he'll do it in every way possible. Outside the top 4. This is so dependent on who goes through, right? But I think I sort of look to St Kilda and you think a Jack Steele. Just they'll stand up. They'll do their job. Even a Rowan Marshall, someone like that is very pivotal to the way they play and can generate their movement going inside 50. So, yeah, those are mine.
Yeah, Petervisa's track, Scott with Harry. The teams are in, the ins and outs are in for the Collingwood Melbourne game, just quickly. In for Collingwood, Bo McCreary, Darcy Moore, Nathan Murphy. So they get their key defenders back. Out, Billy Frampton omitted, Finn McRae omitted, and John Noble omitted, as well as Jack Ginnivan omitted. So there's my.
There you go. That talk we had is.
All that talk was for nothing. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it. And then for Melbourne, Michael Hibberd and Tom McDonald in, Daniel Turner and Jake Melksham out. So pretty standard ins and outs for them. Yeah, you reckon Bailey Fritsch? I like Bailey Fritsch. Jack Steele as well. I reckon Toby Green is primed to just go off.
Yeah.
Toby Green's primed to go off. And I also think Errol is going to make a statement, which is shit because he's versing us. But I think he's primed and ready to go to just be like, I'm a gun. Mm-hmm. But if we're going top four team, I'd love to see Zach Bailey announce himself.
Yeah.
They're the players I would go with. So that is all for this show. Because yeah, the nerves are kicking in. Thank you, Nathan, for joining me once again. Thank you for everyone in the comments. Thank you everyone for watching. It's much appreciated. Make sure you stick around for 4 minutes time for the AFLW show. Make sure you follow both of us on Twitter, r_y_stammer at Nate Seppi. Good luck on Friday night, mate. I say good luck, but I wish both of us luck.
Yeah.
We could be very happy or very depressed a couple of weeks' time. But thank you very much for sticking around. Thank you for joining me. Stick around for the AFLW show. See you guys next week. Goodbye.